Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Steve Harvey. Let me talk to you today about something that so many women struggle with but rarely get a straight answer on. You're sitting there wondering, oh, why won't he just tell me how he feels? You've been patient. You've been supportive. He's supportive. You've shown love, loyalty, understanding, and still he's silent. And silence can mess with your mind if you let it. But let me help you understand something important. Most men don't open up because they're asked to. They open up when the environment requires it. See, men are wired to protect themselves first, not because they're evil or heartless, but because vulnerability feels risky to us. When a man talks about his feelings, he's exposing his fears, his intentions, his future plans. And if he's not sure where he stands with you, he'll keep those feelings locked tight. So the mistake many women make is trying harder, talking more, explaining more, pushing more, thinking effort will unlock his heart. But pressure doesn't open a man up. Space does. When you stop chasing clarity and start standing firm in who you are, something shifts. When you stop asking us, so what are we? And instead start living like a woman who already knows her worth, you create a moment of truth. Because now he feels the possibility of losing access to you, not through drama, not through threats, but through dignity. And let me tell you something, nothing makes a man evaluate his feelings faster than realizing a good woman is not guaranteed. Most men don't suddenly decide to open up emotionally because someone asks them a deep question at the right moment. It doesn't work like flipping a switch. A man usually opens up when he feels a shift in the situation around him, especially when he senses that something valuable could change, fade, or disappear. This is because men are often taught directly or indirectly that showing feelings is a risk. From a young age, many men learn to solve problems, stay strong, and control emotions rather than express them openly. So when it comes to relationships, emotional conversations can feel like stepping into unknown territory where they don't fully know the rules. When a woman constantly pushes for emotional clarity, even if she means well, it can sometimes make a man retreat further. Not because he doesn't care, but because pressure makes him feel cornered. When someone feels cornered, their natural reaction is defense, not openness. He might change the subject, become quiet, joke, or even pull away slightly. Inside, he may still have feelings, but he doesn't feel safe or ready to put them into words. Many men need time to process emotions internally before they can speak them out loud. They want to be sure of what they feel before they declare it, because once they say it, they feel responsible for it. Change, however, creates reflection. When a man senses that the dynamic is shifting, when the woman he values is no longer over-explaining, over-giving, or over-chasing, he starts paying closer attention. Not because she's playing games, but because the emotional environment has changed. If he was used to constant reassurance, constant availability, or constant emotional effort from her, and that suddenly becomes balanced and self-respecting, it wakes him up. It makes him think. So humans, especially men in relationships, often react more strongly to the possibility of losing something than to the comfort of always having it. Possible loss doesn't mean threatening to leave or creating drama. It means emotional independence. It means a woman living her life fully, not waiting by the phone, not putting her happiness on pause. When a man sees that she is valuable, confident, and not desperate for validation, he starts evaluating his role in her life. He starts asking himself if he is showing enough. He starts thinking about his feelings because now those feelings might actually matter to the future of the connection. Another reason men open up when they sense change is because clarity becomes necessary. If everything feels comfortable and guaranteed, there is less urgency to define emotions. But when things feel like they could evolve in any direction, a man starts wanting to secure what he values. That's when many men begin to communicate more honestly, not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. It's also important to understand that many men associate emotional conversations with long long-term meaning. If he tells you how deeply he feels in his mind, he is stepping into a higher level of commitment or responsibility. So he waits until he feels ready, sure, and emotionally steady. When the environment around him is calm, respectful, and not demanding, he feels safer taking that step. This is why emotional strength, patience, and self-worth are so powerful. When a woman stops trying to force emotional timelines and instead focuses on being stable, secure, and self-respecting, she creates a space where a man can step forward voluntarily. And voluntary emotional expression is always deeper and more honest than something pulled out under pressure. When it comes to relationships, many women believe that if they just explain themselves better, love harder, or give more, a man will finally understand how serious they are and respond with clarity. But the truth is, chasing answers often has the opposite effect. The more you pursue emotional reassurance, the more a man can unconsciously step back. This isn't because your desire for clarity is wrong. It's because constant pursuit changes the balance of the relationship. It places you in a position of seeking and him in a position of deciding. And that imbalance slowly drains attraction and emotional urgency. Self-respect shifts everything. When a woman knows her value, she doesn't need to repeatedly ask where she stands. She observes actions, patterns, and consistency. She speaks when necessary, but she doesn't beg to be chosen. That quiet confidence sends a powerful message without a single argument or emotional speech. It tells a man that she values herself enough to walk away from confusion. And when a man senses that a woman will not stay in a situation that doesn't honor her worth, he becomes far more aware of his own behavior. Chasing clarity often creates emotional noise. It turns conversations into interrogations, even when that's not the intention. A man may feel like no matter what he says, it won't be enough, or that he's being evaluated instead of appreciated. Over time, this can make him emotionally tired and less willing to engage deeply. But when a woman steps back and allows space for actions to speak, the pressure disappears. And in that silence, a man starts to hear his own thoughts more clearly. Pulling back does not mean becoming cold, distant, or manipulative. It means becoming centered. It means focusing on your own life, your goals, your peace, and your happiness. When your world does not revolve around his responses, he feels the shift. He notices that your energy has changed. You're no longer chasing conversations or emotional validation. You're present, but not desperate. That balance makes a man curious, and curiosity leads to introspection. Men are naturally responsive to challenge, not pursuits. When everything feels earned, it holds more value. When your presence is a choice instead of a guarantee, it creates respect. And respect is what opens the door to honesty. A man who respects you is far more likely to tell you how he truly feels because he knows you are emotionally strong enough to handle the truth and confident enough not to tolerate confusion. Self-respect also protects you. When you stop chasing answers, you stop ignoring red flags. You stop explaining away inconsistency. You stop settling for half communication. Whether he steps up or steps away, you gain clarity without losing your dignity. And that is real power. A man doesn't open up because he is chased into a corner. He opens up because he sees a woman who knows her worth and is not afraid to stand alone if necessary. That strength is magnetic. It invites honesty, maturity, and emotional responsibility. And even if he chooses not to speak up, your self-respect ensures that you walk forward with clarity, confidence, and peace. Silence, when it comes from insecurity, can feel heavy, uncomfortable, and confusing. But silence that comes from confidence carries a completely different energy. It is not about ignoring someone, punishing someone, or playing emotional games. It is about being emotionally steady enough that you don't feel the need to fill every gap with questions, explanations, or reassurance seeking. Many people underestimate how powerful, calm, grounded silence can be in a relationship dynamic, especially when it is backed by self-worth and emotional control. Constant questioning often comes from anxiety. When someone keeps asking, do you care about me? Or what are we? Or why didn't you text me? The deeper message is often fear of losing connection. And while that fear is human and understandable, repeated questioning can slowly reduce attraction and emotional openness. It can make a man feel like he is under emotional pressure, like he must constantly prove something. When people feel tested all the time, they stop feeling relaxed. And emotional openness usually requires a sense of emotional safety. Confident silence is different. It is the ability to observe instead of react immediately. It is allowing someone's actions to reveal their intentions without forcing conversations before they are ready to happen naturally. When a woman can sit comfortably in silence without over-texting, over-calling, or over-explaining, she shows emotional strength. She shows that she is not ruled by fear. And emotional strength is deeply attractive because it signals stability, maturity, and inner security. Silence backed by confidence also shifts attention back onto the man. When there is constant talking, constant explaining, or constant emotional pushing, a man can stay in reaction mode. He only responds to what is being asked. But when there is space, he has to decide what he feels, what he wants, and where he stands. That internal reflection is where real honesty is born. You cannot force someone into self-reflection, but you can create the environment where it naturally happens. Another important part of confident silence is emotional control. It shows that you are not easily shaken when small changes happen, like slower replies, mood shifts, or busy schedules. You don't immediately assume the worst. You stay grounded. That grounded energy creates trust. A man feels less pressure to perform emotionally and more freedom to be real. When someone feels safe from emotional explosions or panic reactions, they are more likely to open up honestly. Confident silence also protects your dignity. It stops you from saying things you might regret later. It prevents emotional oversharing with someone who hasn't yet proven they can handle your vulnerability responsibly. It gives you time to observe patterns, consistency, and effort. And in relationships, patterns matter more than promise. It's important to understand that confident silence is not about disappearing or becoming emotionally unavailable. It is about choosing when to speak and when to observe. When you do speak, your words carry more weight because they are not constant. They are thoughtful, intentional, and calm. That makes people listen more carefully. Men, like most people, respond to emotional environments. When the environment is calm, steady, and respectful, honesty feels safer. When the environment is full of pressure, urgency, and emotional noise, honesty can feel risky. Confident silence creates space for truth to rise naturally. And sometimes the most powerful message you can send is not spoken out loud. It is felt through your presence, your calmness, and your ability to stand strong without needing constant reassurance. That kind of silence doesn't push people away. It pulls truth closer. When you raise your standards in a relationship, something powerful begins to happen, often without you saying many words at all. Standards are not about demanding perfection or expecting someone to become someone they are not. Standards are about deciding what kind of behavior, effort, communication, and emotional maturity you are willing to accept in your life. When those standards become clear, not just in what you say, but in what you allow, honesty naturally becomes necessary in the relationship. Many people lower their standards out of fear. Fear of losing someone, fear of being alone, fear that if they ask for more consistency, more effort, or more clarity, the other person might walk away. So they tolerate mixed signals. They accept delayed communication. They accept emotional confusion. And over time, the relationship becomes built on uncertainty instead of security. But when a woman raises her standards, she changes the emotional structure of the relationship. She is no longer silently accepting whatever is given. She is quietly expecting emotional responsibility. When a man is with a woman who has strong standards, he quickly understands that he cannot stay in a gray area forever. He cannot give half effort and still maintain access to her time, energy, and emotional support. This is not because she threatens him or gives ultimatums. It is because her actions show consistency. She responds to effort with warmth. She responds to distance with emotional balance. She does not chase when he pulls away. She does not over-reward minimal effort. And because of this, he understands that if he wants a deeper connection, he must step up emotionally and be honest about his intentions. Raising standards also creates emotional clarity for both people. They can stay comfortable without defining the relationship or expressing real feelings. But when expectations are healthy and clear, a decision must be made. Either he grows into the standard or he realizes he cannot meet it. And while that might sound scary, it is actually freeing, because uncertainty is far more emotionally draining than clarity, even when clarity is difficult. Another important part of raising standards is consistency. It is not about setting rules one day and ignoring them the next. When a woman is consistent with her boundaries, she teaches people how to treat her. People learn very quickly what is acceptable and what is not. And when someone knows exactly where they stand, they are more likely to respond with honesty. Confusion often grows in environments where boundaries change based on mood or fear. Men often respect what they have to rise to meet. When something valuable requires effort, honesty, and emotional presence, it feels meaningful. When something is always available, no matter how little effort is given, it can slowly lose emotional weight. Raising standards does not push the right man away. It actually pulls the right man closer because he feels challenged in a healthy way. He feels motivated to show his best self, not forced, but inspired. It is also important to understand that raising standards protects your emotional well-being. It prevents you from staying in situations where you are constantly guessing, hoping, or overthinking. It gives you emotional stability because you are no longer negotiating with your own self-worth. You are no longer trying to earn basic respect or clarity. When honesty becomes the only path to keep the connection strong, most men will choose on. Not because they are pressured, but because they understand that the woman they value expects realness, effort, and emotional responsibility. And when someone knows they must be honest to stay in your life, they either step forward with truth or step away. Either outcome leads to clarity, and clarity is always better than confusion. For many men, expressing feelings is not just about saying words. It is about accepting responsibility for what those words mean. When a man says, "I care about you," or "I love you," in his mind, those statements are not light or casual. They come with expectations, consistency, commitment, effort, and follow through. This is why many men hesitate to speak openly about their emotions. It is not always fear of vulnerability. Often, it is fear of responsibility. They do not want to say something they are not yet ready to live up to. Men are generally action-oriented. They prefer to show rather than tell. So, when a man is unsure of his ability to provide emotional stability, time, or long-term commitment, he may choose silence over expression. Silence feels safer than making a promise he might not be able to keep. And making a promise he might not be able to keep. This is why pushing a man to define his feelings too early can backfire. It forces him to confront responsibilities he may not yet feel prepared for. And instead of opening up, he may retreat or give vague answers to protect himself. When a woman understands this, she stops measuring connection only by words. She begins to pay closer attention to consistency, effort, and behavior. She notices whether he shows up, whether he prioritizes time, whether he is reliable, and whether his actions align with emotional interest. This awareness changes the dynamic. When a man realizes that his actions are being observed, not judged, but noticed, he becomes more conscious of what he is offering. He starts to understand that feelings without effort are meaningless. A man becomes more willing to talk about his feelings when he feels emotionally capable of backing them up. This sense of capability grows in a stable environment. When a woman is calm, secure, and not emotionally reactive, she creates space for a man to step into responsibility at his own pace. He does not feel rushed or trapped. Instead, he feels trusted to rise to the level of the relationship naturally. That trust can be a powerful motivator. Another important aspect is respect. Men are more likely to take emotional responsibility when they feel respected rather than controlled. Respect comes from being allowed to choose, not being forced into declarations. When a man chooses to speak his feelings, those words carry more weight because they come from intention, not pressure. He feels ownership over his emotions instead of feeling like he was pushed into them. When a woman holds herself with dignity and emotional balance, she sends a silent message. Feelings are welcome here, but only if they are real and supported by action. That message encourages honesty. A man knows that if he speaks, he must act. And when he is ready to act, he will speak. This is also where patience becomes strength. Patience does not mean waiting forever or accepting emotional neglect. It means giving space for emotional maturity to develop while staying true to your own standards. If a man grows into responsibility, his honesty will follow. If he does not, his silence becomes information rather than a personal failure. In the end, when a man tells you how he feels, it is usually because he has decided that he is ready to carry the responsibility that comes with those feelings. And when that moment comes, his words are not just expressions of emotion, they are commitments backed by intention. One of the hardest but most powerful truths to accept in relationships is this: if someone consistently avoids expressing how they feel, that silence is often an answer in itself. Not always an answer about your worth, your value, or your attractiveness, but an answer about their readiness, their emotional availability, or their intentions. Many people stay stuck waiting for words that may never come, hoping that time, patience, or love will eventually unlock someone's emotions. But real emotional freedom begins when you learn to listen not only to what someone says, but also to what they consistently choose not to say. Silence can mean many things. Sometimes it means confusion. Sometimes it means fear. Sometimes it means emotional immaturity. And sometimes it simply means lack of deep investment. The mistake many people make is assuming silence always means hidden love or unspoken deep feelings. While that can happen in rare cases, long-term consistent silence usually reflects emotional limits. And understanding that truth can save you from months or even years of emotional uncertainty. When you start seeing silence as information instead of rejection, you gain power. Instead of asking, why am I not enough for him to open up? You start asking, is this situation giving me the emotional clarity and stability I deserve? That shift changes everything. It moves you from self-doubt into self-awareness. It stops you from chasing emotional validation from someone who may not be capable of giving it, at least not at the level you need. Freedom comes from clarity, even when clarity is uncomfortable. When someone clearly expresses love, interest, or commitment, you can move forward with confidence. When someone clearly expresses disinterest, you can move forward with closure. But when someone stays silent for long periods while still enjoying your presence, attention, or emotional support, you stay stuck in emotional limbo. And emotional limbo is one of the most draining places to live. Understanding silence as an answer does not mean becoming cold or assuming the worst about people. It means respecting patterns. Anyone can be quiet for a few days. Anyone can struggle to express feelings during stressful times. But long-term patterns reveal emotional truth. If someone repeatedly avoids emotional conversations, avoids defining the relationship, or avoids expressing deeper feelings even after time, consistency and connection have been built. That pattern is communicating something important. Your freedom comes when you decide that you deserve emotional clarity, not emotional guessing games. When you stop chasing explanations and start observing patterns, you become emotionally stronger. You stop trying to decode every message, every delay, every mood change. Instead, you focus on how the overall dynamic makes you feel: secure or anxious, valued or confused, prioritized or optional. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from emotional uncertainty, even when you care about the person. Because love without clarity often turns into emotional exhaustion. And emotional exhaustion slowly erodes confidence, peace, and self-worth. When you learn to accept silence as information, you stop wasting emotional energy trying to force answers. You start creating space for people who communicate clearly, who show up consistently, and who are emotionally available. And when you create that space, you give yourself the freedom to experience relationships built on honesty, stability, and mutual emotional effort. In the end, your power is not in making someone speak. Your power is in deciding what you will accept, what you will wait for, and when you will choose yourself. And that choice, choosing clarity over confusion, is where real emotional freedom begins.